Dave Ramsey is one of the most prominent financial figures in North America, and the cornerstone of his financial philosophies are written in these 7 steps that he calls the baby steps. Now, these were written 30 years ago, so I want to go over them and see if they still make sense to follow in 2024. The baby steps are: save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund, pay off all your debts except the house using the debt snowball, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund, invest 15% of your household income into retirement, save for your children's college funds, pay off your debts early, and build wealth and give. So we're just going to go through these in order, starting with the first one: save $1,000 for your emergency fund. Now, the idea of saving money for an emergency fund is a great idea and sound financial advice. However, and I cannot emphasize this enough, $1,000 is not enough for an emergency fund. Now, while it is true that 57% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense, so saving just that $1,000 might be a good accomplishment, it's still not enough for an actual emergency fund. And I actually have personal experience with this. A few years ago, I had an emergency event and I had to go to the ER. I'm okay now with no long-lasting effects, but when I got the bill, it met my entire deductible in one go. It was $2,017 for the trip. If I was following the baby steps and only had $1,000 for the emergency fund, I would have been $1,000 in medical debt. To correct this, I would actually bump up step 3 to step 1 and go ahead and save this 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. That way you've got a better cushion, you're more prepared for emergencies that might come up, and if you get laid off, then you've got more time to find another job without it being super stressful, because probably $1,000 in an emergency fund is not enough to get you even 1 month of expenses should you lose your job. Moving on to step 2, pay off all debts except the house using the debt snowball. Now, paying off debts is really good advice. However, I do disagree with using the debt snowball. And for those of you that don't know, this is how the debt snowball works. Put them in order, the debts, by balance smallest to largest, regardless of interest rate. Pay minimum payments on everything but the little one. Attack that one with a vengeance. Once it's gone, take that payment and put it towards the second smallest debt, making minimum payments on all the rest. That's what's called the debt snowball method, and you'll use it to knock out your debts one by one. And the big issue I have with this is this part that says put them in order by balance, smallest to largest, and then pay off the smallest one first. And mathematically, that is incorrect. Like I said, imagine you've got 2 debts. One is a $1,000 debt at 5% interest, and one gets a car loan, $15,000 at 15% interest. While you're paying off the small one, you're still getting those bigger and bigger interest payments on the big one. So it makes sense to actually not worry about the small one for now, but pay off the bigger one with the higher interest rate. Larger interest rates cost you more money relative to the amount you have borrowed or the amount you are in debt for. So it makes more sense to go ahead and pay off the high interest rate ones as fast as you can, no matter what, because they are costing you the most money out of pocket that you didn't borrow. Now, some people will say that you should keep certain debts that are under like a 3% interest because you can make more money than that by investing in the stock market. And while that is technically a possibility, but the stock market goes up and down, that is way too complicated, I think, for most people. Most people just want to be out of debt in the smartest, most financially responsible way possible so they can move on with their lives and save money for retirement. If you're a mathematical whiz, then go ahead and keep those low interest debts and make your extra 2 or 3% by spreading it across the stock market. That's a great idea. I'm happy for you, but I don't think most people want to have to worry about that. So for step 2, instead of paying them off smallest to largest, go ahead and pay them off largest interest rate to smallest interest rate, except of course for the mortgage. Step 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Great, no notes. Only thing I would do is put that to step 1, which we had already talked about. Step 4, invest 15% of your household income into retirement. And this is where I have to strongly disagree with Ramsey. In his baby steps, he's basically saying, don't start saving for retirement or investing your money for retirement until you have all of these things done, all your debt paid off and your 3 to 6 months of expenses. But I think that's a terrible idea, because every year that you don't spend saving up money is thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in compound interest that you're not getting when you retire. Let's say it takes you 3 years to get out of debt, but you've been pausing off your retirements, and let's say hypothetically you were saving $300 a month for retirement. I'm going to use Ramsey's own calculator here and say you're 30 years old, you're going to retire at 67. Over the course of those 3 years, you haven't been contributing $300 a month because you've been paying off debt. That amount adds up to $10,800 that you didn't put into retirement. So let's see what happens if you get an 8% return between 30 and 67 with $10,800. It's $200,000. And if you get a more realistic return, the S&P 500 has done 10 to 12%. So let's say you get that 10%, stock market does well for the next few decades. you've lost almost $500,000 by not investing this money early. And this is with nothing more contributed. This is just this amount compounding over the next 37 years. It's almost $500,000. Whatever your debt is, it is not worth losing out on $500,000 over the course of your life. Actually, what you should be doing is you should take your employment match for a 401k basically always, except in extreme circumstances where you're either in debt to the IRS or you are about to lose your home. And second, you should contribute something to a Roth IRA, maybe at least $50 to $100 a month, because that will compound so much. And when you're in your 40s, you will be so happy you had that money. Your priorities should be to be able to afford food, shelter, transportation on top of your debt's minimum payments, then contribute something at least small to retirement, like even if it's just your employer's 401k match, and then the rest of the money that you have on top of that, go ahead and put towards your debts. And unless you're at risk of losing your house or going in debt to the IRS, you want that money. I also take one other issue with this baby step. It's that I don't think 15% is enough of your household income. If we look at this is Fred, so this data is straight from the government. The average individual income is about $40,500 basically. And if we take that and we plug it into a retirement calculator, let's say you're 25 years old right now, you're investing $40,500, you've got currently zero, 15% of that is $506 a month. Over the course of your career, assuming you retire at 67, you'll have $1.4 million, which is by no means a bad amount of money to be had. But in 40 years, that's going to be worth a lot less due to inflation. If you were to bump this up to just 20% of your income, so from 506, go to 675, which is only about $170 more a month. It's not that much, but look how much more you would have. You would have basically $400,000 more, which is probably much more indicative of what you'll need when you retire. Now, the next Dave Ramsey step is step 5. Save for your children's college fund. Great step, no notes. If you're not going to have kids, no worries. Just max out your other retirements and also things like HSAs. Step 6 is pay off your home early. You can do this, but by and large, I recommend that you don't do this unless your interest rate is over 8%. If it's over 8%, go ahead and pay it down early. That's better. But if it's not over 8%, then I would say just continue to make minimum payments on your mortgage, adding a little extra if you feel like it. And then the money that you could have put toward the mortgage, go ahead and put in either to your retirement or into some kind of mutual funds, because it will make more money there. As long as you're saving responsibly, your house is still going to get paid off just fine, and you'll actually have more money coming out the other end of the 30-year mortgage than you would have if you had paid it off early. Step 7 is build wealth and give, and I strongly commend Dave Ramsey for this. It is good to encourage people that have gotten their financial lives together and have enough money to be able to help other people. Encourage them to actually help other people. And if we look at the last step, it says find out what your current net worth, then keep building wealth and become outrageously generous, all while leaving an inheritance for your kids and their kids. That's what I call leaving a legacy. This is one of the main reasons that I continue to respect Dave Ramsey as a financial coach. His entire philosophy is built around getting out of debt, getting your financial life together so that you can then go and help people that are unable to do that. So the general principles for the baby steps are pretty good. You want to not take on unnecessary debt, go ahead and get out of debt, save for retirement so that you can retire and have a great life when you do, and also own your own home. However, because not all of these have entirely aged super well, I've gone ahead and rewritten it with my own baby steps, and there are only 6, and I can't think of a clever name for them, so we're just going to read them. The first step is save 3 to 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund while paying any debts you have, paying the minimum. You want that 3 to 6 months just in case anything happens. Kids get sick, people get in car accidents, life happens, and you want to be prepared for that. Second is take 401k matches from your employer and contribute something to a Roth IRA, even if it's $50 a month. That'll be worth so many hundreds of thousands in the years to come. Step 3, pay off debts from largest interest to smallest interest except for your house. And that's just mathematically the best way to do it because you will be paying down the debts that are costing you the most extra money. Step 4, increase retirement to 20% of your pre-tax income, prioritizing Roth IRAs, HSAs, and so on. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Just invest 20% of your pre-tax income into whatever you want. Just make sure to max out these tax-advantaged accounts first. Step 5, save for your children's college. If you don't have children, go ahead and put more money into retirement, live a good life. Step 6 is build wealth and give generously to those in need. I'm not going to change that one because it's incredibly important for people that have enough money or are privileged enough to grow up with 2-parent households that can help put them through college. It's important for those people to then turn around and help people that don't have those kind of advantages in life. So I hope these 6 steps help you to get your financial life in order, and I'll go ahead and paste them in the comments. Thanks for watching.